Hello everybody, welcome to episode number 13 of the WimLex podcast. We're very happy to be here in London today and have with us Hugo Jenkins. He's the commercial director of Truva. And Truva is an online marketplace helping independent boutiques sell more online. And they, as Alexander just called it, are maybe the savior of the retail shops, especially the smaller ones.
Or maybe not.
So, delighted that you're here with us, Hugo. Could you explain a little bit more what Truva is and what problem you're solving?
Sure. So, marketplace is definitely one piece of it. I'd say that the other piece is platform. And actually the business's genesis was all about helping shops small independent shops to manage their inventory in real time and then also make that inventory shoppable online. So we have a platform which enables shops to kind of represent themselves in the online space, and these are all specifically bricks and mortar independent shops across various different categories. And also we're very selective about the shops that we work with, so we're kind of selecting for ones who are really great at curating exceptional product ranges and also creating great offline experiences. So we give them a space and the technology to upload various different things, so from information about their shop, who they are, where it is, their background, their story, what they stand for, their brand values, and lots of other content like that. But then also we have the technology to enable them to upload all of their product, so take stuff that's hidden on the shelves of their shops and make it shoppable online. That's first part, which is the technology piece, which is a big chunk of our business. And then the second part then is we connect them through our marketplace to customers all over the world. We also try to make, when they do get sales, and they tend to get quite a lot of sales, we also try to make that as easy as possible for them. So we deal with the logistics, so we will route the different orders through to the best logistics carrier for that specific order. We will deal with the payment handling, transit protection, fraud protection. We have a 7-day-a-week customer service team, so kind of we're always there to make sure that the right product gets to the right customer in the right time frame. So the idea is it frees these amazing small shops to kind of get on with what they do best, which is to curate a really exceptional product range that's really appealing to our customers, and then also manage their offline experience and their in-store customer service. But we can then bolt on all of the technology and the demand that they need to be able to sell online. I think the other thing is it's very, very hard, or it's impossible for a small shop to drive efficient traffic to their website. Like, it's a really hard thing to do. I think if we look kind of 5-10 years ago, everyone decided they needed a website, including a lot of these small shop owners, and there was, I think, a bit of a preconception that if they build it, they will come. So a lot of them kind of engaged, web building agencies to build them like basic websites, and they kind of had it, and then they had it. They did a big launch, and they were really excited, and then the kind of website sat there, and obviously no one came to visit it. Why were they going to? We talked to a lot of shops, and they said, "Oh no, we have a website, we have a web presence. We don't need one." And I'm like, okay, well, what volume of sales have you done? And they're like, oh yeah, we did 5 sales last year. Yeah. So it's that kind of world that we're moving away from. The idea being that actually, if they all become a network and a community together, actually they're way stronger, and we have therefore the ability and the investment in marketing to kind of help them to compete online versus much bigger players.
Can you tell us a little bit more about like the backgrounds of Truva? How many people are working there? What kind of markets are you markets are you active? What kind of shop owners are active on Truva? Because how you describe it reminds me a little bit of Farfetch. Of course, they're very active in luxury segment, but it seems to be very similar problem to the shop owners. Mm-hmm. And I understood a little bit like the USP for the shop owner. What I didn't get is like, why should people come to your website buying there?
Yeah.
But maybe we can start with like the more KPI pillars of Truva and we have a lot of German listeners, a lot of like Dutch listeners, just to get a better understanding. Is it kind of an eBay for small boutiques? Is it kind of a Farfetch competitor? Is it kind of just to get a little bit? We need to put it in a box.
Okay, somehow. There's a lot of questions there. Let me try and break them down a bit. So, Truva in our background. So as I said, we started the technology. We actually started as a different business called Street Hub back in 2013. and our co-founder Mandeep and other co-founder Alex kind of came at it from a perspective of Mandeep was working in consultancy for big retail, and he was seeing all these like efforts that the kind of big behemoth retailers were making into trying to attempt a version of omnichannel, and he was like, firstly, there's so much legacy. It's like turning an oil tanker. This is going to be really, really slow. And secondly, who's doing it for the small guys? And the big advantage the small guys have is that they are small, so they're much more agile. And that's where, and he came up with the original proposition, which was called Street Hub, which was the technology was similar, which was to take this offline inventory and be able to represent it online. But the model was different. So the idea was to create additional local demand for those shops. So it was app-based. You download the app. If you want to find a lamp in your town, you write lamp and it tells you what shops have different lamps in stock, and then you go buy them.
The pitch of local Google shopping.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's kind of was that, but it was all in-house at Street Hub. It worked to an extent. Like it was quite exciting for the shops to feel like they were driving more footfall, but it was quite hard to prove causality that like this person was on the app and then wandered into that shop, and it was a subscription-based model. Street Hub didn't own the transaction, and it actually got a lot of app downloads, but it wasn't a scalable model. And it was that flip of, okay, well, look, what we're doing at the moment is trying to generate additional local demand. Well, what if actually, rather than connect the shops to more local demand, actually we open up their demand globally? And that was when we layered the marketplace on top. The business pivoted, became Truva, and that's where like the rocket ship took off, and the business started growing really, really, really quickly. At the moment, I think so. We're right in peak kind of sales days at the moment. We're not a gifting site, so we don't completely, we're not one that does 50% of our revenue in a month or something, but we do have a bit of a peak in December. We would bring in extra customers who are also doing gifting purchases. I think at our peak, we'll be 99 people in the next couple of weeks. We'll scale down a little bit after Christmas, but we scale down for a month or two and then it starts to grow a bit. In terms of where those people are, most of them are in our HQ in London, but we also, I think like 2.5 years ago, launched a tech hub down in Lisbon in order to be able to acquire really good engineering talent that isn't outrageously expensive. And that's
living in the EU.
Yeah, well, that may have a little bit of something to do with it.
Let's not touch upon that today.
Yeah, and then we now also have, so we've started to bring on board a few shops across, kind of hand-picked shops across some of Europe's capitals. So we also now have a few business developers out in market in different places around Europe at the moment.
Which countries are they and cities?
So we started off in Germany, in Berlin, beginning of the year. And we now have shops in Berlin and a couple of other German cities, Munich and Hamburg. And then as of today, we announced our launch on the supply side, so the shop side specifically, in Madrid, Amsterdam and Copenhagen. And then there's a bit of a list of other places where we're starting to sign up shops, but we haven't yet necessarily announced that publicly yet. But if you were to be a sleuth and you went on the website and you went, every single boutique is listed there. I mean, you could, if you had the time, figure it out.
So you're responsible for the commercial side of Truva, and if I look at the amount of products you have on offer, I think it's about 90,000 already. Maybe even more now.
Significantly more now.
Significantly more.
Yeah, as of the last 4 months.
Yeah, because you've increased the amount of boutiques.
Yeah.
You have a lot of boutiques here in the UK,
yeah.
Also in Germany and in the new cities and countries that you explained.
Yeah.
If you look at sales volumes, Chris Anderson wrote an incredible book in 2005, I think it was, called The Long Tail.
Yeah.
And he was actually explaining, the internet is helping people find these niche products that you couldn't find in a warehouse in the center of London back then. I think you're a typical company that would have been explained as a case study in Chris Anderson's book. If you look at the sales volume, do you really see that the niche products that are not available in, say, Net-a-Porter or Zalando are the best-selling products on Truva, or do you see a lot of uptake of mainstream brands sold through your boutique shops?
It's a real mix. As we've grown, we're finding I guess the simplified way to look at it, and obviously it's like shades of grey, but a lot of our shops do actually have quite a lot of branded product in them, but they are, they're selections of really interesting design-led brands, but they're reasonably well known if you know about homeware stuff. So whether it's like Firm Living or Brost or Hay or whoever else, those brands generate search volumes. We can buy the keywords on those brand names, which is a small part of our digital marketing strategy, and that will pull customers onto the site. So typically that's finding people on the internet and bringing them on to Truva.
For the first conversions.
Yeah, so that's a great way to bring new people into our database of customers. But then I think actually if you look at the customers who come back very often, then they start buying from less well-known brands, from local artisans that the shops stock. So I think they're...
And how do you curate that, the returning visitors and the returning buyers? What's your strategy on getting loyalty from your first client?
Sure. So I think it's all about the story of the shops. So that's why I led shop first. You mentioned what then is the benefit for the consumer. Why is it so exciting or interesting for them? I think we have well over 90,000, not quite double that, but nearly now, products on the site. But if you think about each of those products, we will only list that product if it's on the shelf of one of our shops. Those shops are quite small. They only have 10 meters of shelf space in their shop. It's run by someone who's really, really passionate. They're an owner of a business. They're an entrepreneur. It's really hard to get to a point where you're running a really cool, great, well-known, highly curated offline experience bricks and mortar shop. So they've gone through a lot of due diligence to get to a point where they're running that shop. And one of the things they're very, very good at is curating an exceptional product range. So they're in a world where they really care about the products they stock. They're experts at figuring out where to get them and what the trends are and what products they want to have on the shelves, and they're restricted by the physical space. That means however many products we have on the site, typically we have a buyer for every couple of hundred, and that buyer is one of our shop owners, and that buyer is an exceptional person at buying essentially, and they're very, very motivated because they're motivated by equity rather than salary. So that means that as you scale up in aggregate, if you look at all the products on the site, it doesn't matter how many have. As long as we're only bringing on really great shopkeepers who are great for curating product range, every single one of them has been handpicked. And I think that's the magic of the business. And then if you kind of flip that and think, okay, well, how are people then shopping on the site? How do we curate that experience of returning? Our bet we're making is that the shops sit very much at the center of that. People will want to, and look, we're not replacing the offline experience of the shops, but we're trying to augment it. We're trying to find ways that you can replicate a bit of that experience of walking into an amazing little shop on the the lanes in Brighton or in Kreuzberg in Berlin, and go and look at the shelves, see how the products are all curated and edited together, have a chat to the shop owner of where they've got them from, where they've sourced them, what might go with what. So we're trying to take bits of that and put them online. In the end, that means we're trying to create a different type of e-commerce experience. It's a discovery experience. It's very counter to some of the really big e-commerce sites whose job is to remove all friction from the sales funnel.
What kind of products we are talking about?
So you mentioned Farfetch, which is an interesting analogy. And actually, of all the businesses we get compared to, it probably is one that's one of the most relevant. I think if you think Farfetch is known for luxury fashion, we're known for premium homewares. We do have shops with other categories, but
premium homewares.
Yeah, because it's premium versus luxury, so it's not
it's
quite
like
as high price point.
WMF frying pan, for example, or
it's more the design-led homewares. It's more
Okay.
like tablewares and
Okay.
lamps and.
No, I really just hope. I'm 100% convinced that it's going to work on the selling side for the shop owners, because the market has proven that none of the small shop owners is able to run a big website.
Mm-hmm.
They have even a hard time to set up like the Google Business page, which usually takes 5 minutes for guys from or girls with our background, but it's hard for them because it's not at all native. And then with all the regulations coming up and all the discussions around it, it's really hard for them. So I think it's easy to convince the shop owners because footfall is usually decreasing in most of the areas, even in central London areas. But what I'm a little bit curious about is, so what is then the for me as a customer? I'm 100% convinced that all the stuff I'm buying and which is movable is coming from China ultimately, and I can find everything on AliExpress, Banggood, or on other websites. So why, apart from having some sentimental feelings for my local dealer, and he shouldn't go bankrupt, which is like the reason I hear a lot in television discussions. So why should I go to Truva, buy something from a local shop owner? Maybe you can explain, do I see like the shop owner, do I see only the product, or do I see like this is a seller, this is a story, is it shipped by the owner, is it shipped by you? So what is like the customer USP here? I understand 100% the USP for the shop owners.
Yeah.
I don't get the USP for the customer yet.
So let's say two parts. So we did a lot of customer insight work. So I was saying like a lot of e-commerce businesses are trying to remove all friction from the funnel. Like if you're buying coffee pods from Amazon, say, like in a perfect world, you don't even go to the website. You just press a button and they come. Or even better, your coffee machine knows that you've run out and just orders them for you. You don't even think about it. Actually talking to our customer base and thinking about what they want from their experience on Truva, most of them are professionals, but they see them, so they're not just kind of straight creatives, but they see themselves as having some adjacency to creativity. They feel like they want to be able to express themselves creatively in some way. Probably a lot of them feel like one day they would love to own a little shop in Kreuzberg or Stoke Newington or whatever. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they do potty class on the weekend. They almost see shopping on Truva a bit like one of those creative outlets. It's a bit of a hobby for them. So actually we're not trying to remove all friction from the sales funnel. We're actually putting some back in on purpose, but it's got to be the right type of friction. The type of friction we're trying to create is discovery friction. It's an experience where you go on, you explore. You very often might go to Truva and not know what you want, which is the same as when you're walking into one of these little shops and you're looking on the shelves and you fall in love with the product. And the way that we are doing that is through content from the boutique. So every boutique has their own page where they have a lot of control of what sits there. And that's on the website. That's also augmented by all of our other channels. So we do social media takeovers where shops can take over our Instagram feed for a week, for example, and show like inner workings of the shop, who they are, what their buying trips are like, where they get their products from. We do a lot of interviews and content and blog posts and videos. We've done events in the shop where we've invited some of our VIP customers, some of their VIP customers. We'll do like a panel about homewares trends and things like that. So I think where that ends up, think of this discovery experience online, is it's a bit like putting together your perfect virtual high street of all of the independent shops that you love the most. And so I think there's a lot of customers who will follow different boutiques. That enables us, for example, to do notifications where that shopkeeper brings in new product. I live up in Stoke Newington, which is like a little kind of village type area in North London. And there's a few shops that I know I really trust the shopkeepers to understand my taste and to kind of, probably actually to have much better taste than me and kind of keep me caught up with what's going on. And I know if I walk into those shops once a season and kind of look at the shelves, they would have brought in, some returning products from brands that I'm familiar with. They would have brought in some new brands. They would have picked a subset of the products from brands that I really, that are much more interesting or potentially I identify with. I know that if I keep going back to those set of shops, it's like a bit of me. It's like that's where I will find a set of products that I identify with, and I'll be able to buy a load of stuff that I want. I think more and more customers will start shopping on Truva like that. They will have a set of shops that they follow and that they like, and when they come back, they'll go and see what new products have come in from those shopkeepers. They'll be linked to videos or interviews with those shopkeepers or blog posts about them, or they'll then link to their Instagram feed and see what where they've been on their buying trip recently to Morocco. We're making a bet that the stories of the shopkeepers are a great way for people to start segmenting and cutting down our overall product range to a bunch of products that will really, really suit them. And I think that is a big difference between us and Farfetch. And this is, I was talking about someone else's business, but I think Farfetch was in a world where they kind of pretty much knew what brands they wanted to work with. They knew what luxury fashion brands they wanted to work with. One of the ways that they could get that stock was by working with the boutiques that stock them. Yeah. But they kind of probably always had a bit of a list of who their top brands were. Yeah. We're actually kind of putting ourselves behind a bit of a veil of ignorance. We're saying we don't know what the best homewares brands are. We don't know what the best products are. We have information and data that we're very open with. We feed back to the shops of what we're seeing on our side. But actually what we're saying is the shops know better. So it might be that the brands that they stock right now and that are selling really well might be completely different in 6 months or 12 months. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to let them worry about that. It's our job to pick the shops, and then it's their job to pick the products. And if it's a product that gets onto their shelves, it's a product that gets onto Truva.
Okay, I know that Willem was always dreaming about setting up a boutique store in Amsterdam, selling designer lamps, calling the shining poffertjes. So let's say he has such a store with a decent footfall, and so such stores usually have like $500,000 to like $2 million in revenue per year.
2 million's a pretty decent size independent shop.
Yeah, but you should see the rents in Amsterdam. So you need like 2 million just to pay it.
Yeah,
so
same in London.
What's in it for him listing his product range on Truva?
I guess the way I see it is you kind of alluded to it. There's a ton of fixed cost involved in opening a shop. So your business ends up being very, very geared and very sensitive to small changes in that fixed cost base. You know, if your landlord comes back and puts your rent up, quite often that's most of your operating profit gone. And typically, if you own the shop, your operating profit is your salary. Like it's real world stuff. Like this is like if these changes happen, or if footfall goes down by 10-15%, potentially, we're stuck with all this stock. You've got this asset that's costing you loads of money, and it's not efficient. In a sense, it's very basic. We're helping them to sweat those assets and make them more efficient. Our cost is all variable, so they're only paying commission on sales. So actually, it reduces the gearing of their business, and it opens up their shop. It removes the need for geo co-location. It means that suddenly they, rather than just have customers who are going to walk into their shop in Amsterdam, they have customers all over the world. And that's what we've been able to do when we brought on shops in other markets. Is we tend to separate supply and demand a bit, so we don't necessarily go after a market and get the demand of the supply at the same time. What we're doing in Amsterdam, for example, is going in and connecting those shops to the pre-existing demand and database of a couple of 100,000 customers we already have. And so often within the first few days, we've had feedback where they've sent a shipment to the UK, but they've also sent one out to the US or Australia or Germany or wherever else. And so very quickly they see that it's like suddenly opening up their shop window to the entire world, rather than relying on the people who are just walking past it on the street.
And zooming in on the selection process of those shops, like the boutique that I fancy to have in Amsterdam.
Shining Poffertjes is in there, I'm pretty sure.
We're in a location, listeners, where next door there's a pancake house. Pancake house. So we can have lunch there, Alex. Question about the selection process of those boutiques. You said that's the curation is the role of you at Truva. We actually did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with Michiel Muller, who's the co-founder of Picnic, an online supermarket similar to Ocado here in the UK. And he was saying, well, I don't know what products are out there in the market, and the differences between regions are huge. So what they did is, in the app, they opened the opportunity for their loyal community to give suggestions to new products to be added to their supermarket. Is there? I can imagine that your community is very loyal to Truva as well, if they are in a discovery phase and using it often. Are you interacting with that community to find new boutiques? And
we always ask customers, and from day one, you've been able to submit a suggestion of your favourite shop anywhere in the world. So actually, even when we were just in the UK, we were starting to build this database of shops that we knew our customers loved. So that's one group who's very useful at us in informing us on what other shops there are that should potentially be on Truva. The other group who's very good are actually the other shops. So there's potentially, a preconception that they probably all feel very competitive with each other, and sometimes there is a little bit of competition, if they are both stocking the same products from the same brand, but actually mostly they're a real gang. Like they all know each other, they all like each other, they're all friends with each other, and so it has a twofold benefit for us, which is firstly it helps. People who run really nice shops know the other people who run the really nice shops, and they're very good at advising us on that. But also, they then become an ambassador for us. If they're on Truva and they've had a great experience, and they tell the shop down the road or the shop that's their friend that they met a buying trade show or something, and they say you must be on Truva because it's great. That's the most authentic recommendation we can have. And actually, that's as we move from a more mature market in the UK, where most of the shops we want to work with know about us, and we've kind of maybe spoken to them. We have a great track record. We have the shop down the road. They've read about us in the press. So actually in the UK, most of the shops who now join have come to us. So they apply to join essentially, and then we make a call as to whether it's a good fit. What we're doing in new markets when we're acquiring the first kind of bits of supply in a new market where we don't have that track record actually, is trying to build that trust really quick. So typically if we're, when we went to Amsterdam, for example, we actually took a couple of our UK shop owners over with us on the roadshow, and just, when we were walking into shops and chatting to them, actually we'd bring a shop and say, look, just talk to them about how it is, because it's the most authentic voice. And we hosted an event and we did a panel talking about future of retail and things with those guys. And actually it's nice to hear them talk about this, because they're not selling on our behalf. They just tell it how it is. And so it's a really nice, authentic, balanced view.
What is the criteria to get on Truva?
So it's a little amorphous, I'd say, and we do regular alignment across the senior team, where we'll sample check once every couple of months. We'll take like 10, 15 shops, and we'll look at the decisions we made on them, and everyone will have their say on what would be good or what would be, whether it was a good fit or not. Amazingly, we always end up really much more aligned than we expect we would.
Oh yeah.
Quite a lot of quite strong personalities in the team. I think.
Could you give an example though when there was not such an alignment, saying, okay, here's like a shop or like an experience we don't want to have like in the future?
Yeah, we work with we kind of tested, I guess, this was a year and a half ago, so we probably knew a lot less about the business. We worked with a trainer shop that just had a lot of like the big brands of trainers, Nike, Adidas, those guys. And actually, very quickly, they were doing a lot of revenue on the site. Now, we have a very sophisticated digital marketing team who were acquiring the traffic for those trainers, and we were selling them, and they were making a lot of revenue. But actually, if you look at the lifetime value of those customers, they're not the people who are going to come back and shop off other independent boutiques. They just want to come and get a good deal on a trainer. So, given our acquisition costs, typically we don't make money on the first sale. So, and if there isn't going to be a second sale, we're just subsidising those orders. So it doesn't make any sense. So that was a good lesson for us. And actually, what I'm very proud of, and I think what's really good, is that we decided to end that relationship early, which is a hard thing for an early stage startup to do, because they were generating a chunk of revenue. To make a call to actually say, it's not just about hockey stick curves, it's also about making LTV over CAC, was quite. I felt like we're in this for the right reasons. We're trying to build a long-term business. I think the other, so in terms of if I could categorize how we pick the shops, I think most important thing is do they have a great product range that our customers will love. We can use some indicators of like a subset of their range. So one way to filter it early in a new market where we don't know that much about the market is say, okay, do they stock within their range? Do they stock some of the brands that we know sell really well? And if they do, it's probably a pretty good bet that then the rest of their range is the kind of stuff that would also sell well, unless they have a weird portfolio of products where they have some really great homewares brands and then a bunch of weird stuff. But that happens very rarely. So I think product selection is first and foremost. After that, it gets a little bit more esoteric. It's like, do they have a great offline experience? Is their shop beautiful? Do they have a great story? Do they stand for something as a brand? Like, what filter do they apply to all of the world's products to handpick the ones they're going to have? And I think probably if you look at within the team, the crossover there goes, my commercial hat is always like, can we sell lots of the products? And then our creative director's hat is more like, can I create great content and great stories for our customers? And mostly we can do both. I guess on the margin, the bit is where we have more of a discussion about it is if one of those things is really strong and one of them slightly less strong, then we start making a call.
And how do you decide? Let's say you have I don't know how to call it in English, like pen storage device. I don't know. You have like more
pen
like
tray.
A pen tray.
I'm going to say.
And you have like five boutiques offering the same pen tray. So how does the customer journey looks like? So when you're finding the pen tray on your website, do they find it like? Do they have like a list of this is like 5 stores that could be like your your suppliers?
Let's take 2 typical customer journeys. First, if they type pen tray into Google, or they type, let's say it's a branded pen tray, they type brand name pen tray.
Yeah.
Then typically, if we're buying keywords on that, then they will get pushed to a product page of one of the shops. We route that demand across the different shops who have that product, so they all get a fair share of it. If you're a customer, then you've gone to the product page, so you don't see lots and lots of versions of that product page. You only see the one that you've ended up being routed to. Hopefully then you click on the link to the shop and then you start shopping the rest of the range, and then you fall in love with it, and then you think, oh, what's this Truva thing? And then you start shopping all the different shops. But even if you don't, you buy that pen tray. and then we'll start, marketing to you and
And if you
retargeting.
search Pentray on the Truva shop.
So that's the flip side is if you're on Truva and you know you want a pen tray from Truva, you don't know where you want it from, and let's say you're not someone who's shopping by boutique, you're shopping by product, then if you type pen tray, you'll probably end up with a few pages of products, I expect. What our algorithm will do, well, if there is the same product, it will spread it out. So if one of them's on page 1, the other one will be on page 7. So you don't see them all next to each other.
And how does the algorithm behind that work? How do you select which one to depict?
Using magical technical juju. I'm not an algorithm guy. I don't know the exact logic.
There are algorithms behind it.
And there are lots, and actually that's a big focus on the business where, early stage, we, how the website looked to a customer was very much based on like static decisions we made when we listed the product. Like we applied a quality score to it, for example. We're now much more moving to a world where actually we learn about the customer, what they're searching for, what they like, what they're looking for, and then they start getting a personalised version of products that we think they'd like from boutiques they think we'd like. We'll suggest boutiques that are similar to ones they like, or if they start shopping trends, like it looks like they really like concrete stuff, we'll start suggesting more concrete products. So actually we're moving much more to a world of personalization where you start seeing that golden end state I was talking about, where eventually you have your perfect dream high street and your shop, you can kind of walk along it and shop all the different shops. It may be that one of those shops is in Shibuya in Tokyo and one of them's in Kreuzberg, Berlin, and et cetera, but you don't necessarily need to feel it because you can explore them all.
Is it possible, one question because of the ranking algorithm, is it possible because other websites are seeing themselves or perceiving them as a platform, even Zalando or Amazon, and they are selling you ad specs to put in some banners, advertise maybe for your product, or in this case maybe for a boutique? Are you offering this already? Are you planning to offer this?
We're not, and it's who knows what the future may hold. But right now, that probably potentially makes more sense where you've got commodity products, and so it's just a case of which product's going to make you more money. Whereas we don't. We have discovery journeys. So actually, right now, it doesn't make sense to figure what we don't. Right now, it doesn't make sense for if a person's willing to pay more, they get more. It's much more a case of what products can we show the customer that are going to make them really happy, make them shop again and again, and maximize our conversion.
And how does that? I mean, I know you're not a tech guy.
Yeah.
Just curious because personalization is the buzzword for many of our listeners as well, and everybody's struggling a little bit on how to manage data, how to collect data, and how to make use of that data that the customer journey is actually advanced for a user. How do you do your data management? Is there like a platform in place, a DMP, a so-called DMP, or is that something you've developed your own tooling for?
So most stuff we've developed in-house. We're very lucky. We have a technical co-founder who's just genius, basically, and that really helps because he built everything from scratch ourselves. We are in the middle of moving from one data warehouse to another. It's not something that I'm necessarily involved in. And then we're really beefing up our analytics team. So if you think of like broadly what our engineering and our product team are doing, they're basically building the services that power the marketplace. And that could be, for example, how we manage logistics. So we will route every package through to the right courier and get it delivered efficiently. We'll make sure that tracking is really on point. We'll make sure that if there's issues, we can track them early and we can intervene where we need to. Like that's actually a really complicated, difficult thing to build. And right now, it's only being applied to Truva, but we're building this technology at the moment. Another piece of technology is real-time inventory management. We have such a user-friendly way to upload products and keep them up to date. So quite often our shops are going through a world where they're keeping stock in a book. Like they're literally physically writing down what they've sold that day, or even they're just looking at the shelf, and when the shelf's empty, they think, oh, I should probably order some more of that stuff. So we're taking them from where we're taking those people and creating a tool that's easy enough for them to use that they're very happy to, that suddenly gives them a real-time inventory data. We can then use that data to start feeding back useful information to them. So we can look at their velocity of sales. Like if they're managing their in-store stock and their they have one source of truth for their stock, we can see their in-store sales and we can also see their Truva sales. We can start predicting when they're going to go out of stock of certain ranges based on their velocity of sales. If you then also apply a lead time that that supplier has, then we can tell them with quite decent amount of confidence, actually you should start thinking about buying in more of those products now. So you miss that month where that shelf's just sat there empty. So it suddenly makes their business way, way more efficient. So I think, I think what the technology team is focused on is thinking about what are the underlying things that need to be slotted into these businesses to make them be able to do this stuff really effectively and efficiently.
Maybe that's an unfair question, but I'm still struggling about the omni-channel approach, because if we do look in our own Amazon accounts, it's a pretty clear path. It's not pointing into a hopeful direction for shop owners. So when you look at your own shopping behavior, so you're probably living in London, which in the UK is other than Amsterdam, as I've learned, a very important Amazon market. So how many times are you shopping stuff at websites like an Amazon, so which are not curating content, which are just giving you access to merchandise, and you just click on buy without having the inspirational process?
For products that I don't really care about that much, products that just make my life work or efficient all the time. So I love Amazon. I think it's amazing. It's super easy way to get the stuff that I want when I want it. And I will get my coffee pods from Amazon, but I don't buy my clothes from Amazon. I don't buy a nice pot to sit on the shelf in my house from Amazon. Actually, I think that in the end, what it comes down to, and if you talk to our customer what they're looking for, and you read between the lines a bit, when someone comes to their house for a dinner party, they don't want that person to say, "Oh, I've got that lamp," whether it's from Amazon or IKEA or wherever else. What they want that person to say is, "Where did you get that lamp? That's really cool." And then that person wants to have the right to say, "Oh yeah, I got it from this really cool little boutique in Kreuzberg in Berlin, and oh, it's run by Hank and Maria, and they do all their sourcing from a rock."
Another lamp example, you see?
Another lamp example, yeah. and I think that's the difference, is that they don't get to say that if they bought that thing on Amazon. And everyone has that thing. No one wants to show off a bit about that. What they want is to say, I have gone and I've applied my taste and I've explored and I've discovered and I've found this person who's created this great range of products and I bought it from, and I know where it's come from, I know the story, and I've been quite clever in doing that, so I get to show off about it. So it's not a case of Amazon or Truva, it's a case of a divergence between what you're shopping for and what that thing you're buying means to you.
And if you look then to marketing of Truva, I think what is a big difference compared to you and Amazon is that Amazon puts their brand on everything. It's an Amazon world that we live in, whereas you, I think, are more modest, and you would want to have the boutique as the primary spokesperson to your clients.
We want the shops to feel like these are their customers.
Yeah.
We want the customer to feel like they're the boutique's customer. We're just facilitating the whole thing. We are, and that's why we love it. We get stories all the time where we've had. I remember one a couple of months ago, it was from an American family who said that they had discovered Truva and they'd found these great shops in Brighton, and then their family was coming on holiday to London, and they decided to make the trip down to Brighton for the day to go shop those shops where they'd fallen in love with the products and the people who ran them, and they went and met them and talked to them, and they probably bought a load of stuff then, but you know what, they probably didn't want to ship most of that stuff or take most of that stuff on the plane, so then they got back home and then they went back to Truva and then shopped more from those shops, and they've become a loyal customer of that shop. And they visited it in person, they've met the person, but now also that's augmented by the fact that they can also buy that stuff online. So it's those two things working together. We don't see them as conflicting.
So, and we have a lot of shop owners listening this show, because it's a show about commerce and retail. So is there something you want to tell them? So should they all apply with the Truva / setting up new shop or whatever service?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'd say is...
You can offer them a voucher. Maybe that's easier. The version is better.
Yeah, tell them to send me an email, I'll see what I can do. And I think there's a and we were discussing this briefly before the podcast. One thing that's interesting is the UK is a bit more mature. E-commerce penetration is quite high. We've had Amazon for a long time. It's almost taken as a given in the UK that you have to supplement your offline business by selling online. It's getting to that point. Particularly the shops we've spoken to, and particularly the shops on Truva, have now realised that this is a way for them to pay their rent quite often. So actually they can just get on with running their shop, and a lot of these big, chunky, difficult fixed costs are taken care of. Moving to other shops in other markets in Europe, sometimes it's like a slightly different state in the market. You know, maybe Adamson hasn't come yet. Maybe there's really strong footfall right now. And I think there's a bit of a sense of complacency sometimes. I think my caution is that this stuff is happening. The world is changing. It's going to hit every market eventually. The best thing to do, rather than to kind of bury your head in the sand and deny it, is to actually like get prepared and get ahead of the curve and future-proof your business. So I think that's what I'd suggest is that the world's changing. You know, get with the change. If you do and embrace it, you can do it in a really wonderful way that enables you to do the stuff you love and also protects your business for the future. If you ignore it and forget about it, it might be too late.
Great closing remarks, I would say. Yeah.
One thing that struck me as a final question, you guys have been able to grow 3,000%. So you've really
over 2 years or so. It was kind of a press release stuff.
Yeah, I think that was beginning of the year. Yeah.
And
we've grown quick.
Yeah, and I think you touched upon many different recipes of success, like a community that is really loyal and are fans of the boutiques you're representing. Also, in an internationalization, you've grown into different markets, and you're really showing those boutiques with products that aren't for sale on other platforms, on other marketplaces. I think what you also explained about your engineering capabilities, that's impressive. I think you strike the right balance between commercial assets in the company and tech capabilities. Is there something we're missing here? Is that the secret to the secret recipe to your success, or is there something else that helped you grow 3,000%?
Sounds a bit wish-wash, but I see it's just the mission. We're a mission-led business. Every single person that works for Truva really cares about what we do, and I think that helps you when you apply that lens and you have a purpose and you have a mission. You tend to make better decisions because you're not making necessarily decisions for the short term. Like, we need to grow, we need to change things, but you're also thinking like, we want to secure the future for our community of shops. We really care about them. If you look at that growth metric, you could think, well, look, we probably just signed loads and loads more shops. But actually, another metric internally that we pay very close attention to is what revenue per shop we're doing. So we're always making sure we're not just growing by adding products from different shops. We're also growing revenue per shop, and so we're having more and more meaningful impact for each shop that we work with. And look, it's just really nice. I think definitely one of the reasons I joined the business a couple of years ago was I just went and walked into a bunch of our early shops that we'd started working with and just talked to them about what it was like being on Truva. And it was the stories that they told me that made me think that this is an amazing business. Like, we're doing great things for the shops that we work for, and therefore you can derive purpose, you can drive meaning. I think that motivates you to make good decisions.
Cool.
Impressive.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for being our guest number 13, and I'm pretty sure there's going to
Lucky 13.
Some sign-ups,
Let's hope.
some sign-ups for Truva out of the Dutch and the German market, but where I'm pretty sure you're going to set up shop soon in Kreuzberg, for example. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you.